The Saint is a 1997 film directed by Phillip Noyce, starring Val Kilmer and Elizabeth Shue. Now, while this film is far from perfect, it is one of those films that has stayed with me ever since I first saw it in the cinema back in 1997. So, is this a good movie? Objectively, probably not. But for me, it's one of those special films I've loved then and still love now. Let's dig into why. The Saint is based on the character of Simon Templar, created by author Leslie Charteris. Templar first appeared in 1928 and became hugely popular in novels, comics, radio, and of course the 1960s TV series starring Roger Moore. Hollywood had been trying to bring the Saint to the big screen for years. By the mid-1990s, spy thrillers and action films were booming. We had GoldenEye in 1995, reigniting James Bond, Mission Impossible in 1996 with Tom Cruise. So I guess Hollywood felt it was the right time to bring the Saint to the big screen. Phillip Noyce was brought in after the success with Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger. Val Kilmer was cast fresh off Heat and of course Batman Forever. He was a big name at the time, though not really a traditional leading man in the true sense of the word, and more of a character actor. Elizabeth Shue was already an Oscar nominee for Leaving Las Vegas. She now plays Dr. Emma Russell, the love interest and scientist central to the cold fusion plot of the film. The idea was to mix Cold War style intrigue with a glossy modern 90s setting and hopefully launch a franchise. The story follows Simon Templar, a master thief and master of disguise who takes on jobs for hire. He's tasked with stealing cold fusion secrets from Dr. Russell in Oxford, which leads to romantic entanglement, double crosses and run-ins with the corrupt Russian politicians. Along the way, Val Kilmer dons multiple disguises: a flamboyant South African, a German assistant, a Spanish traveller, even a crazy journalist. The list goes on. And the plot itself, well, it's a bit messy, convoluted and at times implausible, but that's almost also part of the fun. Now here's why the film really matters to me. I'll admit the story isn't coherent, and technically it's a hodgepodge, but when I saw it in the cinema for the first time, I was blown away. It is one of those first times that I felt transported into that espionage world, a man of mystery, disguises, globetrotting. It was all intoxicating, and somehow it ingratiated itself far more with me than the likes of Mission Impossible and of course James Bond. I had read some of the Saint novels and enjoyed them, so seeing this modern take pulled me in even more. More than anything though, the Saint made me a huge fan of Val Kilmer. For me, he wasn't the leading man type, but here he showed his range by playing multiple characters. He was versatile, charming, and just thoroughly captivating. And Elizabeth Shue, at the time I thought she was stunning. She played innocence and brilliance so well, and the chemistry between her and Kilmer was so believable, and really in many ways lit up the screen. One of the things that stands out for me is that they actually filmed in Russia. The movie was shot on location in Moscow, at the Kremlin and various landmarks. Today that would almost be impossible. At the time, seeing those settings on screen gave the film so much more authenticity. Val Kilmer's disguises and array of personas were a huge part of the film's charm. Whether he's Bruno von Houtengast, the eccentric German, or Thomas More, the bohemian artist, each role gave Kilmer something fun to play. Watching it now, of course, the technology at the time was cutting edge. Gadgets like the Nokia flip phone. This phone was known as the Nokia 9000, but charmingly now dated. But at the time, they were groundbreaking and state-of-the-art. And what more can I say about the soundtrack? It was absolutely killer. Orbital's remix of the Saint theme, Sneaker Pimps' Six Underground, used famously in the courting scene between the two characters, and of course Duran Duran's Out of My Mind, playing as the credits roll. The soundtrack gave the film a cool, stylish edge that still sticks with me more than even the story does. For me, the film also has such memorable scenes, most notably, of course, the restaurant seduction, where Kilmer, of course, orders 2 bottles of wine and speaks to who Emma is behind her facade, and how she cuts through the lies put forth by him and actually gets to the heart of who he is as a man. The Oxford set pieces, along with Emma, the Moscow chase sequences, and of course the finale cold fusion reveal, implausible but entertaining in a Hollywood saves the world kind of way. Now originally, Ralph Fiennes and Kenneth Branagh were considered for the role of Simon Templar, but both turned it down. Kilmer had tension with producers over script changes, but he fought to keep many of the disguises in the sequences. The ending was of course reshot after test audiences rejected the original. In the first cut, Dr. Russell dies, but audiences hated it, so they brought her back instead, and had the grand finale that we do see in the end film. The film was also a box office hit, grossing $160 million worldwide, though critics of course hated it. A sequel was planned but scrapped due to creative disagreements and Kilmer's difficult reputation at the time. This of course was at the time Kilmer had been involved in the notoriously controversial The Island of Dr. Moreau. A reboot had been in development for years with Chris Pine once attached, and more recently, Regé Jean Page. The poetry written by Simon Templar's Thomas More character was actually written by Kilmer himself. The radio announcer at the end of the movie was Sir Roger Moore himself, who of course played the Saint in the British television series. Val Kilmer turned down returning to the Batman franchise after the box office smash Batman Forever due to the commitment to this movie. When Simon Templar is disguised as a long-haired artist, he mimics a Cape Townian accent. He refers to his home in Africa and uses the vernacular Afrikaans pronunciation of yesus, an expletive. Kilmer learned the accent from a South African assistant with whom he worked on The Ghost in the Darkness in 1996, the movie he completed before he started filming on this one. It's interesting to note that in a short story, The Man Who Was Clever, someone does describe the Saint as South African. However, since the Saint has resorted to deception in the past to achieve his goals, the reliability of this information remains questionable. Roger Moore recalled meeting Val Kilmer at the Cannes Film Festival and said, Kilmer said of the movie, "Boy, we really messed up that one, didn't we?" Moore asked what Kilmer had meant. Val then replied, "Well, after we finished filming, I went and read the stories. Those were really some good damn stories." Moore didn't argue with Kilmer. Though described as volatile on set, Elizabeth Shue and the producer, Mace Newfield, denied Kilmer's misconduct, praising his professionalism and dedication. Phillip Noyce originally hoped to have Mel Gibson play the lead. Gibson was initially interested, but then changed his mind, as he had decided that he'd spent too long away from home making Braveheart in 1995. 2 reshoots were done over 8 days in December 1996 and in January 1997, costing an estimated $2 million. Hugh Grant also passed on the role after meeting with director Phillip Noyce, because he didn't like Noyce's approach to the character. Initially, Sidney Pollack was supposed to be director, and Ray Fiennes was offered $1 million for the lead, but eventually they both passed. In a 1994 interview with Premiere Magazine, Fiennes said the screenplay of racing fast cars, breaking into Swiss banks, was nothing he hadn't seen before. So is The Saint a technically great film? No. The plot is messy, the pacing uneven, and the Cold Fusion storyline, well, somewhat ridiculous. But for me, it's special. It's a film that introduced me to that big cinematic espionage world. It charmed me then, and it still does now. It's nostalgic, stylish in a very 90s way, and features one of Val Kilmer's most underrated performances. The chemistry between Kilmer and Shue, the disguises, the authentic Moscow setting, and the fantastic soundtrack all make this movie linger in my mind decades later. The Saint gets a 9.5 out of 10. Not because it's flawless, but because it's a film I can watch over and over again and never tire of. And with the untimely passing of Val Kilmer, I see now The Saint as one of his most special and appreciated works, and it's one of those that you like to just sit back and relax and watch and be reminded of what a talent Kilmer really was. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments, do you love The Saint as much as I do, or do you think it's just a 90s relic best left in the past?